Okay, so what is Rider then? What is it that we're going to talk about today? So Rider is a new .NET IDE from JetBrains. We've built a new IDE. It targets C#, Visual Basic. It covers all the tools that you'd like to use when you're building a .NET application, such as XAML and HTML, CSS, TypeScript, JavaScript. And it also works with projects that run on the .NET Framework, run on Mono, or run on .NET Core. The other thing is that it's cross-platform, useful thing here. So now that .NET Core is going cross-platform and that you can use .NET itself on Windows, Mac, and Linux, you also want your tooling there as well. So Rider is a cross-platform IDE, and it works on Windows, it works on Mac, it works on Linux. It's based on ReSharper and IntelliJ. So if you know the IntelliJ platform at all, you know that this is our platform for building IDEs. We use it for IntelliJ IDEA, Java and Polyglot IDE. We use it for WebStorm, for web front end, and for PyCharm and RubyMine and DataGrip for database applications. And we're using it now as the front end for Rider to provide us with the user interface, with the IDE functionality, and all the interactive elements that we need to build an IDE itself. But all of the smarts, all of the intelligence, all of the language assistance that we're using for our C# and everything is coming from ReSharper. We're running ReSharper as a headless service, as a language server out of process, and we're communicating between the IntelliJ front end and the ReSharper back end to provide all of the functionality that you'd expect from a rich editor and a rich IDE that JetBrains provides. The other thing to point out is that the public early access preview program has just started. We launched it on Monday, and it is available now, so you can go to jetbrains.com/rider and download straight away. And if we have a quick look, if you go to jetbrains.com/rider, you get to see several pages. We've got our download page here, nice big download link which we've got there. You can download it in many different formats, in Windows format, Mac format, Linux format, or even just as a zip archive itself. There are also a couple of useful links at the top here. We've got a list of all the features you can go and have a look at, some video tutorials to show you how to use it, and a survival guide as well, which is some known issues, some workarounds for things, because we're still building it. It's still not at 1.0 just yet, and how you use it, also how it differs to Visual Studio and what you're used to. But that's enough talk. So let's have a look at it and see what it is that we're actually working with. So if we're going to launch it now, I'm going to run this on a Mac, so mainly because I can, basically. It's cross-platform IDE, so let's show it cross-platform. I'm going to run it on a Mac, but everything I'm going to show today is you can use it on any platform as well. It works just as well on Windows and Linux. So one of the nice ways that we can launch Rider is you can download it from the download page that you have there and install it locally and run it as normal. Or you can use our Toolbox app, which is very useful if you have more than one JetBrains product, more than one JetBrains IDE installed. And here this manages the updates and the new versions for you, and it will allow you to install and update nicely. So I'm just going to launch Rider here. Now I've got it configured so that it will launch me straight into the first run experience here. So I want to show you how you're first going to meet Rider and how you can customize it to make it comfortable to you coming from a Visual Studio background. So the first thing you get to see is the first step is a nice simple one. You can choose which UI theme you want, whether you want it to be the classic IntelliJ look and feel or more of a dark skin with the darkular color scheme. Once we select the next, we then also get to choose what color font schemes you want, something which is, again, familiar to Visual Studio and ReSharper users, or something that is more IntelliJ focused here. I'm going to choose a light scheme for the demo, and we'll stick with the ReSharper scheme there. Also, one of the things we really want to do is make it very familiar to you if you're coming from Visual Studio, and so there we're giving you lots of choice here for different key maps. So we have set up some default key maps which copy the Visual Studio ReSharper keyboard scheme. So if you're used to Control-T for Go to Everything, then this is the scheme you want to use. If you're more of an old hand and using the older ReSharper IntelliJ style with Control-N with Go to Everything, then you want to use the ReSharper key map. Or if you're more familiar with IntelliJ itself, if you're using WebStorm, if you're using IntelliJ, PyCharm, and so on, you can use the standard IntelliJ key map here. So the next step on the new wizard is the default plugins. These are the plugins which we've got installed for you by default. So we install a REST client, which is very useful for hitting your web API endpoints, and I'll show you some of that later. We've also got version control system, and here you can customize it. You can say what type of version control systems you work with. So if you don't work with CVS or Perforce, you can disable it. But we also support Git, GitHub, Mercurial, and TFS as well. And this is all installed by default. We've got database tools as well for working with your database, and various other tools then, such as a terminal. And then we've got featured plugins. These are plugins which are not installed by default, but which we are suggesting. So Vim emulation is a very popular plugin, and a lot of people want to be able to use this to get the most out of their editor. And so you can install and enable it here, but only do so if you're familiar with Vim and you know how to exit it, of course. One other plugin which we offer here is the community edition of Python, the Python tools. So this effectively gives you the feature set of the PyCharm IDE community edition, and we can install that and have that in Rider as part of your overall install. The other two plugins we have here are Rider-specific plugins. So these will add functionality to Rider itself. So we've got a heap allocations viewer here, which will give you indications. It'll give you highlights in your code editor every time you make an allocation, whether that's just a new statement or whether it's something such as boxing or delegates or allocating for a closure. We've also got a plugin for Unity, which will give you extra functionality when you install, when you run with Unity projects. And I will install this now, and we'll have another look at that later. And then finally, the last page we've got here is just a couple of useful links. We've got some getting started links, which will show you the links which I just showed you on the web page, and also a link to the issue tracker. So if you have any bugs, because remember we're still in an early access preview, if you've got any bugs or feature requests, please send them into our issue tracker. It also gives you some known issues there and how we can work around that. So now we can start using Rider, and it'll start up and it'll give us our welcome screen. Now I'm just going to quickly change something here because I selected the wrong keyboard shortcut map. So as I say, we've got lots of different key maps here. I just want to make sure I've got the right one selected. And now from here, from our main welcome screen, we can create either a new solution, open an existing solution, or even check out something from version control. So we can go straight to GitHub and pull down a repository and build a solution from there. So I'm going to open an existing solution. So let me just navigate to Monocecil. And what we've got here is, it's a nice project to demo here. Monocecil is a project which allows you to manipulate the metadata of your assemblies. But it's also a very nice sized project which we can navigate around and demo here, so it's useful. What we can see here is really useful. I'm using a solution file here. It's just a standard Visual Studio solution file. There's nothing special going on. There's no new file formats here. It's just solution files and CSproj files as you're familiar with. This is a normal .NET project. It's not been written specially to run on the Mac or anything. It's just a standard Visual Studio project. And now we've got Rider up and running, and you can see here the user interface. It's nice and minimal. There's not much going on to start with. We've got our menu items at the top. We've got nothing on the screen here. We've got a Solution Explorer, as you might be used to, and then we've got a toolbar at the top here. The toolbar here gives you a navigation bar for navigating around your project folders and looking at files. So it's a quick way of getting to files. And then in the top right, we've got things like your project configuration, your run and build, your run and debug buttons, and also some version control systems. Now you'll notice there's not many tool windows here. That's because they're sort of hidden by default. If we go down to the bottom left and hover over this icon at the bottom here, we get a list, we get a little pop-up menu of all the tool windows you can have, and we can add them from there. We'll have a look at some of those in a minute. But if you're not familiar with IntelliJ, if you've never used IntelliJ before and you're coming from a Visual Studio world, then working with tool windows is just a little bit different. There's not much different, but it's just a little bit here. So there's no close window, for example, no pin buttons. Instead, there's a little icon here, which is the hide button, and that'll just hide the window straight away. Now, we don't seem to have any sort of docking toolbars here. We can hover back down over the icon down here. We can click it, and if we click it, then we get our tabs around the edges like we used to here. And we can just toggle the toolbar simply by clicking on them. But we also want to be very keyboard focused as well. So All of our tool windows have keyboard shortcuts, and we can quickly toggle them on and off just by using the values we got there. We also have shortcuts to hide the active window, and also then to jump back to the last tool window as well. So if you're in the middle of your code and you want to jump back to the Solution Explorer, you can just hit Control Backspace and it'll take you straight back there. All tool windows have got this nice little cog icon here as well in the top right. And if we click on that, that kind of gives us some settings then for the window itself. At the bottom, some standard ones, so you can pin it, you can dock it, so you can have it floating if you want to, and you can drag it around the screen and put it where you want to, or we can dock it back again. And we can also sort of resize it as well. And again, very keyboard centric here, we can actually resize it with the keyboard itself. Now, this is just normal Solution Explorer, just like you'd be familiar with here. We can expand it all out and we can see we've got files and folders and everything is normal. We can also start typing here, and that'll help us navigate around, and we can jump directly to the files that we want. And if we pull down the cog again, the items at the top here allow us to do things like auto-scrolling. So if you want to be able to keep the Solution Explorer in sync with which file you are in the editor, and also keep the editor in sync with the file you're trying to view, then you want to check these. So for example, if I switch back to array type, then array type is automatically selected for me in the Solution Explorer. And if I just select any of these other files as well, the editor will open them up for me. Let's just turn those off for now. Okay, so other options we've got in here as well, just things like you'd normally expect. You can show all project items, which, for example, here in the references, it's now showing us our implicitly imported references here, rather than our own explicit references. And we've also got show all files, which will show us all the files that are in the solution, but that aren't actually part of the project here. And you'll see that it's color-coded them as well for items that are checked into source control and things that are not checked into source control or ignored from source control. And of course, we've got references between projects, and we've got files and things that we can navigate around to and work with like that. Okay, so that's then sort of a bit of an idea of really how the IDE looks and how the IDE works. Now let's just have a look at Rider in action. So if you're familiar with ReSharper, you're going to be familiar with a whole bunch of its functionality, such as navigation. And we've brought that navigation then over into Rider as well. So we've got a standard sort of go-to everywhere, which you're familiar with, which is Control-T for Visual Studio keyboard scheme users, or Control-N otherwise. And we've got this in Rider as well. So we can just start typing, and we will immediately start filtering things out here as well. You can see here that it's actually shown things in groups here. So we've got recent files at the top. We can hit Tab and we can go to the classes. We can hit Tab again and get down to files, and again to get down to symbols. So we can quickly navigate around and find things. We can also use, as well as using the Control-T or Control-N keyboard shortcut, we can use the standard IntelliJ Shift-Shift keyboard shortcut. If we hit Shift twice, in all our other IDEs, it brings up this Search Everywhere box. If we do it in Rider, it does exactly the same as well. So we can use standard sort of camel humps here to navigate around. We can jump to places with no problems. But the Search Everywhere box isn't just about files and symbols and so on. It can also search the IDE itself. So if I search for example, generate, I find classes and I find symbols which are useful, but it's also searching actions here as well. And I can click on actions and it will show me then the pop-up for generate here and allow me to work on and generate my code here. So if I can ever remember a keyboard shortcut for something, I can always do Shift-Shift and start typing. And it will be here then and searching through the actions. We do a similar thing for settings as well. So if I want to do highlights, for example, if I want to highlight the usages of an element under the cursor, I can go and look for it here, and I can actually change this because it's a simple Boolean value. I can switch it on and off directly from the settings here as well. So for example, if I have buffer selected here, I think it's somehow got those the wrong way around. But if I've got it selected now, it's highlighting all the usages of that under the cursor. And if I type highlight again, and I toggle that, then it still shows it. Well, it is a preview release. We'll get that one fixed as soon as we can. Right, so that's navigation. Then we can navigate to files, to symbols, to classes, to actions, to settings as well. So for example, I could also type plugins, and then that would take me to the plugins folder, to the plugins dialog, and show me what else I can do here. But we can also obviously navigate around your code as well. So we've got go-to symbol here as well. So if we search in a new file here, we can then just try and find something, and of course we can just type and navigate down, and it'll navigate it to us and take us to a particular file. I can navigate around recent files, and again I can start typing in here. I can navigate around recently edited files as well. So not just the files I've been looking at to navigate to understand what my code is doing, but the code that I've been changing recently as well. I can navigate that and find it and take me to the appropriate file. Okay, so let's go and have a look at, so let's go back to member reference. And of course, we've got all the standard sort of navigation that you'd expect from ReSharper itself as well. So we can have a look at our derived symbols, and we can navigate around to there. So we can go to property reference, and it'll take us to somewhere else. We can look at more derived symbols, and it'll take us directly to the one that's there. We can also go to base types, and it'll show us the whole hierarchy there and allow us to walk up the hierarchy and find a particular type that we're looking for. And in fact, we've got the whole go to, the navigate to menu here as well, the context menu, which shows us all of our navigation options at this point here. So I can navigate to the implementations, to all the classes that implement this interface. Or I can go and find base symbols, find usages, related files, derived symbols, and also things like extension methods. And so I can find any extension methods in the solution which use this as a class to extend, as an interface to extend. And also then there's the exposing APIs go to as well. And what this will do is it's a way of trying to find out where can I get a hold of this. If I want to get a hold of an instance of iMember definition, what method can I call to go and get this? And Rider will then go off and find all of the methods that return this or a deriving type and allow me to navigate directly there. And of course, we've got sort of navigation around files as well. So I can navigate down to the next method and previous method. I can navigate up to the code block that we're in. So I can navigate around the code that it's in. And of course, I can do find usages as well. And find usages will open up another tool window that we have down here, and it will show me all of my usages. It shows me my target and then all of the usages that I've got. And it allows us to do lots of grouping as well. So I can group by folder, I can group by project, and I can disable these as well. I can get rid of the folders, I can even get rid of the files and the types, the namespaces. And so I can have that grouped just how I want it to be. I can merge things on a single line, and then I can also show only read access or write access. So if I'm working with a field, for example, such as this fields range here, then I can say, well, show me, I can disable all the usages which are for read only, and then show me only the things where this field is being written to, and I can navigate around there. And then we can, of course, use keyboard shortcuts to navigate between the different fields we've got going on there as well. And one thing we can notice here as well is that we have got different tabs on these tool windows as well. So the tool windows tabs are here. We can right click on those and we can close them or we can pin them. And so we can work with these as well. This is like a standard feature then with the tool windows that we use in IntelliJ and in Rider as well. We can simply use the X here to close those too. And of course, using the keyboard shortcuts, if we have it here, I can use hide the active tool window, and I can jump back to it again, all with keyboard shortcuts. So we want to try and make you as quick as possible with keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so let's have a look at some editing then. That's kind of some of the navigation features we've got. It's the usual sort of things that you'd expect from something like ReSharper. And let's have a look at editing. And again, we've brought over all the best features of ReSharper here as well. We've got all of our code completion that you'd expect here. And we can do code completion. Let's do something here. And we can replace things. We can hit tab to replace things. Undo. We can have more code completion. Here we can do smart completion as well, so it will only provide the appropriate value that should be used here rather than trying to guess. Let's have a bit of space, and we could say, let's create a list of string. And we've got all the usual autocomplete as well. So we know that we need a list of string here. We know we're going to create a new one, and RIDE and ReSharper will populate that for us. And again, we get all of the methods that we have used there. And again, we can filter it. We can use camel case, just as we would expect to use in ReSharper and RIDE. Now let's go and have a look at member reference. So again, more code completion that you would expect. We have iNotify property changed, where it's not being used, it lives in a different using namespace, and we have code completion now, which will bring the namespace in for us. So now it's brought in system component model at the top here. And we can see we've got the change markers on the side of the window here as well. We can click that, and this will show us now that we've got a change bit of code here, and we can actually pull up a diff and see exactly what is changed here. And this is RIDE's deep integration with version control system. We get to see quite how these things have changed. We can even undo the change directly from there. Okay, another feature which we've got, which is also very useful, is of course the extend selection. If you want to quickly extend the selection from a particular item here, you can repeatedly use Control-Alt-Right or Control-W, and then to pull it back down again, use Control-Alt-Left and Shift-Control-W. So again, it's all the sort of the useful functionality that we've brought over from ReSharper and exposed it into RIDE. Because this is one of the best things that we've got. Because RIDE is actually using ReSharper out of process, we get to reuse a whole lot of functionality that ReSharper has already implemented. So we've been building ReSharper now for over 10 years, for going on 12 years, I think it is, in fact. And all of that functionality and all of that intelligence about your C# code and your .NET projects is now being used to expose that functionality into RIDE itself. So let's have another look at something. So more things with editing as well. We've got our code completion, but we've also got our some of the really nice ReSharper functionality, such as postfix templates here. So I can do module.null here, and if I select that, RIDE and ReSharper will rewrite that code and turn it into a null check for us. I can do a similar thing with not null, and it will rewrite into an if statement which is not null as well. Or we could do we could even do module equals null dot if, and it's smart enough to pull that whole expression out and turn it into an if statement in and of itself as well. And of course, it's not just the postfix templates that we've got our live templates in there as well, so we can do things like CW and expand that out into console.writeLine, everybody's favorite, NGUID, to create a new GUID, and it's different every time. Look at that, new GUID, brilliant. And all of our usual live templates that we've got, they are available here as well. So if we go back up to the top of the file, we can also create a new class, and we can create a class there just by typing class and expanding out the live template. And of course, we have other useful things as well. So such as, let's just put in, we can do quick doc templates. This is our documentation. And we can now display that when we have our tooltips. We hover over, we get to see what the quick documentation is in there. And also we've got the quick doc here as well, so we can pull that up and display that in line 2. And as before, if we refactor something and change the name, let's skip renaming related symbols, then the parameter here then gets renamed in the XML documentation as well. And we can also select items, and we can do format selection here, and it'll tidy things up. We can also apply code style, so we can do clean code as well. So, for example, if we had, let's have a string s equals hello, and our code style is configured here to use var, and if we hit Alt Tab, we could get use var. But if we select this and Alt Enter and do apply code style, that'll be applied for us automatically, and it'll automatically change that into a var statement for us. So that gives us code cleanup and formatting and applying of code styles as well. So right now we don't have a full UI for code cleanup, which will apply with the dialog which you're used to from ReSharper, but the functionality there is there behind it. We're still building the UI and still working on that as part of the preview. So let's have a look for, okay, so let's go to read list range. One of the other nice features that we've got and brought over from ReSharper is the rearranging code. So I can move my current index parameter here into different positions. So I can use the Shift Control Alt left and right to move my item around. And you can see now that the method has got a dotted index around it, a dotted outline around it. And if I hit Alt Enter now, then we get the apply change signature refactoring. And we get a nice dialog here now to show us that this is what's going to happen here. We're going to move a parameter from one place to another. And if we apply that, then Rider has applied this refactoring and changed the code and fixed the code up to work with that. Okay, so that's then kind of covers really the range of the editing that we've got in Rider. So let's have a look at some of the inspections we've got as well. Again, because we're making use of ReSharper in the back end as our language server, as the thing which does the analysis for us and has all the smarts and intelligence about C#, we get to make use of ReSharper's own inspections. So ReSharper has over 2,000 inspections, and it's got about 1,000 quick fixes and context actions. One of the really nice things about Rider can do is that we can expose most of those immediately. So, for example, here, this is a good example. We've got a naming violation here. So we are, ReSharper would pick this up and show you that it's not matching the expected naming rule for fields. And so it's giving us it's giving us a warning there, and something we can do. We can hit Alt Enter here, and we can then immediately fix this all up here. And we can just do a simple rename, and it's working and it's fixed. And of course, we've got then our warnings that we can work with, our ways that we can work with warnings. So for example, here we can expand this out here, and we can disable it with a comment, just like you can in ReSharper, and it respects that, and it doesn't apply that warning anymore. We can do it once, or then we can actually do it in the top of the file as well. So we've added a new comment at the top of the file now, and all of the warnings have disappeared in there. And we can also disable it for the field itself, or with the class, with a simple suppress message attribute too. Okay, so one of the nice things that Rider gives us is working with the warnings that are displayed on the toolbar. and the scroll bar, sorry. So if you have a look at the scroll bar of the editor here, we get to see tooltips over each of the warnings and each of the markers that we've got for the warnings, and it'll tell us what the warning is at that point and show us what's going on. But if we have a look at somewhere where we outside of the current scroll window, we get to see we get to see the current. Sorry, we get to see the code that it would be at that point, but also any warnings that are applied at that point too. And these kind of appear as these little pop-ups here, these little sort of inline tooltips, as it were. And if we click on the item there, it'll take us to it, and we can then hover over it and we see it as a tooltip. But showing it in the editor here allows us to get a good indication of what the issue is before we even navigate to the code. Okay, so what else can I show you with this? Let's go back to member reference. Okay, so we've got sort of the usual expected warnings and inspections that we've got from ReSharper. So again, roughly those up to 2,000 different inspections that ReSharper already ships. And we've applied those in, but they're not all just about warnings and everything. So for example, here we've got a suggestion. We've got a suggestion here that we can use an expression body. So we can actually start using C#6 code here, and we can fix this up and rewrite the code to use an expression body there. So again, we've also got all the quick fixes that you'd expect too. So it's not just the inspections, but it's the quick fixes too. We can merge the conditional expressions here, and RIDE and ReSharper will rewrite that code for us and fix it all up for us. And we can navigate between all of our errors as well. So we've got removing unused using statements. Let's find our inspections there. That's the one I wanted, because we can apply these in bulk as well. So we don't have to just fix it once, we can apply it across the file too. So instead of having it done multiple times there, we can do it all in one particular file. And we can also set the severity of warnings as well. So where we've got an inconsistent naming here, if we are not so bothered about this being a warning, we can actually come into the, we can hit Alt-Enter and go into the inspection settings here and configure the inspection severity and turn it down to a suggestion. And now everything becomes a suggestion, or we can turn it down to a hint, and it becomes a little dotted hint at the start of the word there. We can even set it to do not show as well, so that we don't get to see them at all. So while I'm here as well, it's worth pointing out that the Alt-Enter menu, now we tend to add these three items here wherever applicable. So even if you can't remember any of the keyboard shortcuts to navigate to, refactor this or generate code, while you can type that into the search everywhere box, you can just hit Alt-Enter and get here. So now we'll always be able to find a way of navigating from here. We can always know how to refactor this, and we can always generate code from this point as well. And even when there's nothing selected here, if you hit Alt-Enter, you get the things that are applicable here. Obviously, we can't refactor anything here. We're in a bit of white space. But we can navigate to. We can find the related files to this class, or we can create generated code. And here we can create things like generating the constructor, and we can do it such as the constructor takes in particular parameters, and we generate a parameter, a constructor as appropriate there. We can also generate read-only properties overriding members, for example. So we can override particular members from a base class and have that automatically generated for us. And we can change how they're going to be implemented as well, whether it's going to be public, explicit implementations, abstract, virtual, or if the properties themselves are going to be automatic properties with the backend fields, and so on. Similarly, we can do delegating members as well. So we can create methods which will delegate down to a field method as well. So for example, if we take hasImage, we then create a whole bunch of methods there which will delegate to hasImage. And we'll delete those. And finally, we've got useful things such as equality members, equality comparers, and then formatting as well. So equality is a useful one where if you want to create an equality, a type which is going to be equal based on the contents of that type, you can say which fields that you want to be checking on, and ReSharper and Rider will create those methods for us. It'll create the equal statements and the get hashcode methods for us. Okay, so what is there to show you next? So solution-wide analysis is also available in Rider as well, and we have methods here where it's going to show you now where the code is incorrect, where the code needs fixing up. And so we can come along here and we can rewrite those code. We can change the type of the code there and it'll fix that up. And what's gone wrong here? Let's fix that. Okay, there we go. And if we fix the code up, then the errors are fixed, and it'll show us a nice clean item here. As you can see down the bottom here, we've got our indicator in the bottom right of the status bar, which is a green tick now because we've got no issues going on here. And from here, if we click on it, we can disable the solution-wide analysis. We can open the window, we can pause it, or we can navigate between the errors as well. Okay, so let's just close these down a bit. Now, what I'm going to show you now then is testing as well. So Rider has support for testing. It supports NUnit and XUnit tests. And let's go and find some tests to choose here. We've got this project uses NUnit tests, and it works just like you'd expect in ReSharper as well. So we have the gutter icons here too, which will mark us for a class, and it'll say run all the tests in the class, or we can run a particular test itself. And again, we can do similar things. We can hit Alt-Enter here, and we can run all from here. So if you do run all there, we just get a quick build, and we can expand that out, and we've got our test which has worked nicely there. Is that the right test? There it is. And there we go. We can see the tests that have been run here and that they're all successful. And we could, let's see if we can have let's find a simpler test here that we can fail. Let's set that to 4. And if we run that test here, we should now get a failure, and we should see how that looks in the UI as well. There we go, we've got our failed test. And if we navigate to that, on the right-hand side here now, of course, we get to see what the issue was. It was expecting 4, but it got 3. And we got a call stack as well, which we can click around and navigate to as well. And what's interesting here is that we are actually navigating to decompiled code. So Rider includes the decompiler from .peek. And so we can click on the assert.that method, and we have to disambiguate here and say whether which overload we meant at this point, and we can navigate to it here. And we can see now that we are actually in decompiled code here. This is part of the NUnit framework, and we get to see what's going on here. And of course, we can just navigate around as you would before. We can view the symbols that are in the current that are in the current file, and we can also do find usages on those symbols as well. Let me just find one which is being used, and find usages, and we get those displayed in our find usages window too. Let's switch back to unit testing. So if we come back to here, and if we change that, and of course if we had a valid operation exception going on there, if we ran this test again, we can use the toolbar on the left hand side there to run tests. It'll build first of all and run this again. We'll get a different call stack here, and we can then of course navigate around a call stack in our own code as well, so it's not just about the compiled code. And then of course we can debug it as well. As we just do Alt-Enter, debug, and we can debug our test. It'll run the test, and it'll fire out the debugger, and it'll stop at the appropriate place here as well. And we get our call stack on the right-hand side here. There we see all of the NUnit code until it hits our own code there. We can navigate up and down that stack if we wanted to. We can swap between different threads here as well. And we've got to see our variables, our locals that are around here. So this is kind of our our local variables that we've got here. We can look at this, which is a bit boring as it happens, and we can also add things to look at here as well. So we could have a look at image isn't in scope at the minute, so that's not going to find anything, but section starts length, and we get nice code completion in the window as well. And of course, we can step in. We can see our invalid operation exception coming up, and we should be able to set the next statement. And if we run that, then we should have stepped over. I think I missed that. But we can set the next statement. We can, while we're debugging, we can set the next statement, so move the instruction pointer around, as well as sort of navigate into outer functions and set breakpoints and work with our code like that. So we do full debugging as well. So the other thing to point out with testing is, again, we've got tabs on our tool window down the bottom here, so we can have different sessions that are available at any one time, and so you can work on different sets of tests and swap between them. And we've also got our Explorer here as well, which will explore the entire project and show us all of the tests that are available in this solution. And then double-clicking that, of course, will navigate us around and go and find it, and we can just run a particular test as it is, and that creates a new session for us, a new tab, and runs it for us. Okay, so right, what should we have a look at next? Let's have a look at version control then. So Rider gets to use IntelliJ's version control, as you saw from the plugin that we had installed by default during the first run experience. And we get version control. We get to run with lots of different types of version controls. We can use Git, we can use Mercurial, we can use TFS, CVS, and so on. And it all works through this pane which we've got down at the bottom here, this tool window we've got at the bottom. And it'll show us the changes that we've got here. We can double click on it to navigate directly to the files. Or we can right click and show a diff. And of course, we've got keyboard shortcuts as well because we want to use the keyboard shortcuts. And you get to see then what's changed with those files. And you can also revert them. And you can select which ones you want to revert. Or you can also commit them as well. And when you commit, then you've got a file here, and from here you can also look at the details and see what's changed. You get to the diff view at the bottom as well. One nice feature which we have got with this is checking for to do. So this needs fixing. So if I have a to do here and I want to check this in, which file I'm in, my assembly writer. If I do on the dialog here, we've got the check to do values there. If I hit commit now, Rider will tell me that actually we've got an added to do item here. So it'll know that as part of the code change I'm making, where I've changed the code, that actually includes a to do statement here. So I get the chance now to review it and come at it first here. So I can now see that this needs, I get all the items that I should really be fixing before I actually commit here. So it checks our code for us before we commit it in. So we also have a nice simple way of working with the version control as well. We've got a pop-up here which we can use. We can easily commit changes from here. We can revert. We can show history and annotate files as well. So we get to see what files are being, who changed what file at this point. And hide that again. ECS. And we can work with branches, we can push, we can also work with GitHub there as well, so we can rebase items too. But a very nice thing that IntelliJ gives us here is local history. And this is keeping a track of changes to your files without using version control here. So what we've got here now is a local history. So as you make changes, Rider and IntelliJ will sort of store these changes and stash them away. So that you can always have something to go back to. So no longer having to rely on undo, undo, undo. We can actually look at the changes that we made as we were writing it. So for example, here 9 minutes ago, here the code looked like this, but then I added this to-do statement here. So we get to see what's going on there, what has changed, and I can actually just revert straight back to this version from 9 minutes ago. And if we go back to it now, then my to-do statement has gone. And you can see here in the review that the to-do statement has gone, and so we're all clean and good to go again there. Okay, so let's quickly move on. Let's have a look at creating a new project. So once you've got projects open here, the welcome window changes slightly and keeps a list of your recent projects on the left-hand side. We also got a new solution wizard here, and we've got various different templates that we can use here to create new solutions. So we've got an empty project here, and that is a completely empty project. It gives you basically nothing. There are no files, there are no references, it's just empty. We can create a class library, console app, unit tests, as well as .NET Core projects. So let's have a quick look at a .NET Core project. We'll create a simple web application. And we're going to have a template web application here, and it's going to be a .NET Core app. We can see here from the beginning that Rider is restoring the packages here, so it's making sure that our project is complete and is built. And as it's doing that there, we can sort of expand the references node here, and we get to see then that our references include a high-level reference to a .NET Core app package, and then we can actually step into all the different packages as well. We get to see it as a tree and see exactly what all these packages rely on and depend on themselves. And we've got all the usual sort of things that you'd expect to work in here. So navigation works, so we can go to index.cshtml, we can go to controllers, account controller. If we go to home controller, for example, here we've got an MVC view, and we've got that underlined there, so that means that we can actually navigate directly to the view here. So that's taking us to the CS.html file, the Razor file, associated with the about controller there. So with the contact one, it allows us to navigate and take us straight there. And we can set a breakpoint here, and then we can build and run this. Actually, let's do a debug. And this introduces now another concept from IntelliJ, which is our build and run configurations. So whereas Visual Studio only has one place where you get to set up the configuration for your project, IntelliJ and Rider use this idea of multiple configurations. So you can set up a different configuration to run it how you want to do. So you can have multiple configurations which reference a project which will run a particular project. This is a .NET Core application, so you get to target different target frameworks, .NET Core or .NET Framework, for example. You can pass different arguments in. So you could have multiple configurations which pass different arguments which would do different things. And then you can get it to run an action before it launches here. So the action we've got here is to build a solution. We could also pick one which is to be running an external tool. So Rider will create one of these for you when you open your project and you create your project for the first time. And when you first try and run it here, it'll prompt you to make sure this is what you want it to do. And then you can save it and debug, and it'll run here. And so what I'm doing now is I'm setting up to debug my application, my .NET Core application. And it's building it for me now. It's just starting to run the app, and it's saying, here's the output at the bottom in the console. And it's now saying that it's listening on localhost 5000. So I can navigate there. If we wait just for a second for it to warm up, we've now got our application running here. And we've got an about controller here in our home. So if I click the about button there, then it swaps around to Rider, and we've hit our debug point here. So I can add in a new variable here, view data of messages, message even. And it shows us then the value that it's going to set there, your application description page. But now we can go in here, and we can say equals hello world, and that's set it. And if we carry on running now with F5, and we swap back here, then we can see now we can debug, and we can view values, and we can update values as part of that as well. Okay, so a quick look at .NET Core. I'm going to swap around and create a simple console app now, because the next thing I want to show you is how we work with NuGet. So we can do references here. So if I right-click on here and do Add Reference, I get to add the references which will be available in the GAC. So I can just search for those nice and quickly and search for something like XLink, XML link, and add that to my project. Or I can add NuGet references. And we have our own NuGet tool window down here as well. And we've tried to make this as quick as possible by caching results and updating those in the background. So the more often you use a particular package, then the quicker it is that we're going to be able to return results for you. So for example, if we search for XUnit, we can have this here, and we update that in the background to make sure we want to install it or not. And we can click install, and that gets then added into the project as appropriate. And we can search for things like NUnit, and it'll find those quickly, something like AutoMapper, and it'll navigate and find that very, very quickly as well. Because all these results then are sort of cached in the background and updated then to make sure that we're using the latest version of those packages and working with those appropriately. And of course, we work with NuGet Restore. We've got options for updating you. We will notify you when a new version is available. You can drop this down here and select which version you actually want to install, or you want to have available. And we've got tabs on these tool windows as well, so we can show you where your sources are. You've got various options, so whether or not to include pre-releases, and what our dependency resolution is going to be. And we also show you information about the caches that are being used on your machine as well. These aren't the caches that Rider creates here. These are the caches that NuGet itself makes. So for example, our NuGet packages here, which is looking rather large, that's cached all of the .NET Core packages. This isn't, as I say, this isn't about Rider's own packages, but it shows you then what the system is using as a whole. And then there's also log files as well, so it gives you diagnostics and useful information for packages being installed. Okay, so I quickly want to show another feature we've got in here, which is our database tooling. So if anybody has used DataGrip at all, or is aware of DataGrip, it's an IDE we've built which is for DBAs. It's built to make life easier for database people. And we've added the tooling for that into Rider. So you get all of this for free as part of Rider. So what we can do here is we can add a data source. So we can add things like SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, and also SQLite here. And we can, let's go and find a database. We'll use this database there. I should be able to, download missing driver files, 1 sec. There we go. There we go, and I can talk to that database. And now I have added this database here that I can now have a look at. And now we've provide a very rich set of tools here to work with all of this this database here. For example, we can go straight and have a look at a visualization here to show us what our database looks like, and it can show us now a nice diagram. If I can scroll properly, there we go. A nice diagram with relationships between the different tables that we've got going on here as well. And we can expand everything out, and we can navigate around. We can also search and navigate to it directly from our standard searching options, and that'll take us to the appropriate items there. And we can also query data, and we can have a full list of data going on here. We can then add a new row. We'll sort of then delete the rows as well as filtering here with co-completion too. So, all right, something like Alice, and then that would allow us to filter there. But we also do things such as modifying the table as well. So we can edit the table with lots of changes. So we can change full name to name, for example, and that will generate just the SQL script that we've got going there. And we can hit execute to execute it directly, or we can then say open in editor, and so it'll save the script for us and put it into the editor. We can do that and add that in there. We can go back to our project over here, and we can add in a new file, which is a SQL file. If we open this now, it's saying that it doesn't know what dialect we're going to use, so let's just quickly say SQLite. And now we can do select star from albums. Let's join artists on, and you can see there's some very rich IntelliSense going on here, so as it's completing all this information for us, and we can run this. It says, what is it you want to run against, and it'll display all the results down at the bottom here as well. And so it's a very rich tooling that we've got going on here. We could change that to be something like albums.title, and then we could even rename that title from here. So that's what would we call that instead? Let's just call that name, and then that will that'll actually refactor the database as well. So not only has it refactored it into my SQL file, but now if I swap and go back over to my database tool window on the right, we get to see the name item there as well. And so we get a lot of rich functionality for items going on here. We can even navigate from here with the go-to definition on from our SQL database itself. And just for fun, find usages as well. So a very rich set of functionality for working with your database within your project, and also as a side thing from the database tools window. So that then kind of brings us to the end almost of the hour, really. And so I guess, are there any questions which we would like to look at before we finish, Daria, or should we move on?
Hello, Matt. Could you please briefly describe how ReSharper plugins are integrated, and also share some plans regarding Xamarin and Unity support and dot products integration? I mean, dot cover mainly.
Sure. So the way we're working with plugins at the moment, we are still working on the SDK for that. Right now, we've got a couple of plugins which are working. So Unity is one example here, for example. So the idea here is that we're going to, because it's ReSharper in the back end, most of our ReSharper plugins should work fairly straightforward. It should be a fairly straightforward port. The only difference is going to be when there's a user interface. We're going to have to do something about that too, and that's one of the big things to sort out with the SDK. But let me just show you here quickly then in Unity. So we have two things here with Unity. So firstly, there's a plugin to Unity itself, which will allow us to open a project in Rider. And so I've got this project set up to do this. I can open a project in Rider. And hopefully, if I swap that, there we go. We are now loading this project in Unity, in Rider. And if I navigate to a file here, for example, I've got a mono behavior class going on here. We add some extra functionality such as automatic pop-ups. Let me just type this, for example. So we then kind of provide automatic completion of known known Unity event functions here, and we can create those and build those for us. We can do a similar thing with generate code. We've now got a Unity event functions item at the bottom here, and we get a list of all the things that we can include in there, and we can select those, and those will be added as appropriate. If we have a new method here, my method, if I use the invoke method here, I can also get auto-completion on items here too. So we've got a number of different pieces of functionality to work with Unity. We've got more coming as well. We're working on more. And it also sort of highlights then how we're working with plugins, is that the idea is they will be available as part of the IntelliJ plugin repository. We'll be able to download them through through IntelliJ and Rider's own plugin UI. And yes, we will be publishing some more information of that as we go along. With Xamarin, right now we have support for Xamarin Forms, editing the XAML itself. So we have text editing going on there. So functionality such as inspections and quick fixes and so on in the XAML files. We don't have any UI designers at the moment. Those will probably be coming after 1.0, but we're going to be looking at more functionality with Xamarin as we go on. So right now we're working on, for example, making sure that you can run your Xamarin projects as well. Does that cover everything?
Yes, I guess that since we're running out of time and we can't see your screen anymore, then we will post updates and answers to all other questions together with the recording early next week in the blog. So I guess we are done.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining, everybody. And if you want to get it, jetbrains.com/rider.